The first day of school is right around the corner, and there is a lot. I mean a lot of things a teacher has to do to make sure the classroom is ready before students show up. In today's video, I'm going to take you step by step on how to set up your classroom efficiently so that you are less stressed and ready to go for the first day of school. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Vincent, and I share tips on how to run effective and efficient classrooms so that you can get more done and still have time to teach. There are a lot of different feelings that go into setting up a classroom. Usually it's filled with excitement, but sometimes it's filled with stress and dread because maybe you're moving schools and you have to unpack everything. Maybe it's your first few years of teaching and you want to do it a little bit more effectively than spending hours and hours setting up your classroom. Maybe you just want to get it done quickly so that you have the time to either enjoy your summer or get the other things off of your to-do list. Whatever your reason, I am going to share with you how to prioritize your to-do list so that you get the most important things done, how to have an organized setup so that you are not running around your classroom feeling like you're crazy, and how to set up your Meet the Teacher event so that it's ready to go and you have one less thing on your to-do list. Just so you know where I'm coming from with this, I have 18 years worth of classroom setups behind me, and I'm about to go into my 19th classroom setup. I have moved to 4 different schools, 8 different classrooms, and 6 different grade levels. And each of those moves brings on a whole new set of trying to fit your stuff into that room. I have set up a classroom where there was literally nothing in the room except furniture, no shelves, no storage, just desks, chairs, and a teacher desk. I have also walked into a classroom that was full of a retired teacher's stuff. She left everything. So before I could even start setting up my stuff, I had to go through all of her stuff. Side note, when you leave your classroom, do not leave your stuff behind for the teacher coming after you. They don't have time to go through it, and most of the time they don't want it. Fast forward to today, I have spent 18 years setting up a classroom, and I have got it down to a science to where I can set up my classroom in about 15 to 20 hours. Now, some people like to go in and spend a whole entire day in the classroom and get it all done in a couple of days. I am more of I like to do a few hours here and there, so I don't want to say that it takes me this many days, so I narrowed it down to about 15 to 20 hours. Keep in mind that every single classroom is different, and what worked in one classroom will not always work in another, because oftentimes we purchase things that fit that classroom and then we go to a new classroom and it just doesn't work. The goal is just taking action, doing things each day, even if they're baby steps. And your enemy is going to be perfection. Instagram, Pinterest, social media has made it seem like we have to have these perfect looking classrooms, when in reality, we do not. We are not creating our classroom environment for magazines or social media. We are creating them for our students and ourselves. So you do not have to have a perfect looking classroom. There have been many years where I have started the school year with blank walls. It is okay to have space in your classroom. Part of being efficient and effective when you go in to set up your classroom is to do some planning before you go. And the first thing I always start with is creating a giant to-do list of all the things I need to do when I go into the classroom. One thing I started doing several years ago was I bought a notebook specifically for back to school time, and I have kept that notebook for the last 7 years. Now, I add other things to it, but typically it is for classroom setup, beginning of the year, and it is also the place where as I'm thinking throughout the school year, if an idea pops in my head, I throw it in that notebook, so over the summer and the beginning of the year, I know where to look for it. Your brain is designed to think of things, not keep thoughts in their head. So getting all your ideas and thoughts out on paper is step 1. Write down everything you need to do, from moving furniture, setting up desks, organizing your classroom library, setting up certain bulletin boards. Write it all down. Then the next step is to organize that to-do list. There are many different ways to organize a to-do list. At the beginning of the year, we have time limits on how much time before students show up, how much time before meet the teacher or your back to school night. So there are time restraints on when you can get something done. So when I organize my to-do list, I like to do it by those dates. I like to take that giant to-do list and say, okay, here are the things I need to get done before our meet the teacher, before parents and students show up in my classroom. Things that go on that list would be like setting up furniture, making the classroom library look organized even though it doesn't have to be organized, having paper or fabric and borders on bulletin boards but not necessarily have the titles and everything. Things that will make your classroom appear like it's ready are the things you need to prioritize before your meet the teacher back to school night. That list tends to be long because classroom setup takes a while. And then the second list are things that need to be done by the first day of school. Having things like copies or labels for notebooks and student supplies isn't something that I necessarily need to have done by meet the teacher night. That is something that can totally wait and happen between the time of meet the teacher and the first day of school. Typically, we have our meet the teacher night about 3 or 4 days before our first day of school. So that's something that can wait. Now, I don't always want it to wait, and I actually have time to do it before, I will, but it is not something that is prioritized right now during classroom setup time before our meet the teacher event. I have set up my giant to-do list, put all the things I want to get done before the beginning of the school year. Then I have categorized it by what needs to get done before meet the teacher and what needs to get done before the first day of school. And my next list are my daily to-do list of when I go into the classroom. I choose 3 main tasks that I want to get done that day. Obviously, there are a million things to get done, and of course, I'm going to work on other things in one day. But I choose 3 things that I know if I get those things accomplished that day, I'm going to feel good when I leave. So typically on my day 1, setting up that classroom furniture, because you come in, your furniture's everywhere because the custodians have cleaned the carpet or the floors over the summer. This year, our walls are being painted. So I know that when I walk in, furniture will be everywhere. So my step 1, my first task that I want to get done on day 1 is to get the furniture back in its place so it starts to resemble my classroom. My second task on that first day is to get my area, my teacher area semi set up. I want to get that technology plugged in so I can begin using my computer. I want to make sure that I have a landing zone so as I come and go each day, I have a place where I know I can find my purse and my keys and find my stapler and tape and all that. So I like to get that area set up next. And then typically my third task for that first day is to begin to unpack my cabinets. Because at the end of the year, we're shoving things in those cabinets to get them off of shelves and off of counters so that the custodians can clean over the summer. So my next task for that day is to start pulling stuff and putting it back where it goes. Now keep in mind, this is what I would be doing coming into a room that I have been in before. Now if you're moving into a classroom for the first time, your tasks may be a little different. Your task 1 might be getting all of your belongings moved into the classroom, then taking inventory of what is there, what you need to go through, what materials are you provided by the school, and so that day 1 might look different for you. More than likely, I'm going to accomplish other things that first day, but those are my 3 big areas. My second day tends to be more of my decoration day. I like to begin putting up things on the wall, on the bulletin boards, that kind of thing. Because I've moved everything in its place, I feel like there's more space in the classroom. I can use tables, the student desk, to work and line things out so that I can begin to put up the decorations. Sometimes that day takes multiple days depending on what you're working on, but usually after that, my next day tends to be a lot of like the labeling, putting labels on storage boxes, making sure my areas are labeled, sort of organizing the space so that it can be functional throughout the school year. Now this next tip really is a preference. I know that every teacher is different, And some people need to do all of their work at school because they have small kids or distractions at home. Personally, for me, there are lots of things that I like to do at home so I don't have to do them at school. So my next piece of advice, after you've made all those lists, you've got your giant to-do list, you've got it organized by dates things need to get done, you have it organized by what you're going to do each day, your top 3 for each day that you go into the classroom for setup, and then decide what you're going to work on at home versus what you're going to work on at school. During the school year, I have set really good boundaries of not taking work home and working on school stuff. However, the beginning of the year, I do not have that boundary. I know personally for me, working on stuff at home at the beginning of the year actually causes me to have less stress and anxiety because I can be able to check some of those things off my to-do list, because I know when I get back from summer break, there are meetings that I'm not aware that we're going to have. There are coworkers that I want to chat with that I haven't seen all summer. And so my time at school isn't always quite as productive as I want it to be. So I know that getting stuff done at home makes me feel more productive, and actually I am more productive. So again, that depends on you and what's gonna work best for you. So decide what you can and want to work on at home versus what you're going to do in your classroom. Things I like to do at home versus in the classroom are creating things on the computer, cutting, printing, laminating, making all of those things that I'm gonna hang up in my classroom. My classroom does not have air conditioning over the summer, and those kinds of tasks I can do mindlessly here at home, watching Netflix, so that I can get those things done. And then when I am in the classroom, I have it completed and I'm just putting it on the wall or putting it where it needs to go. Another thing that's really good for me to do at home before I go into the classroom is to plan how I'm going to decorate. Just sort of having an idea and sort of seeing if it works takes up time. And I know that it's not always going to work and I will have to rework it, but having an idea of what I'm going to do ahead of time is beneficial. And one of the ways I do that is to put a picture of my classroom wall into PowerPoint and then add shapes and images over it to kind of get an idea of how I want it to look. This not only helps me get an idea of how I want it to look, it also allows me to figure out what I need to either purchase or create at home so I can have that prepped and ready to go, so that when I do go into the classroom, I hopefully am just putting it up and moving on to my next task. So like we've talked about, there are so many things that we have to do to have our classroom set up and ready to go. We want to prioritize the task that will give us the most bang for our buck for several reasons. One thing is, you never know what is going to come up. If there's an emergency, if you get hired at the last minute or have to move positions at the last minute, what are the things that you absolutely must have done before students show up to your classroom? Getting those things done right away will take off some of that stress and allow you to be a little bit more creative and a little more relaxed when doing all the other things that we want to do but aren't necessary to teach students. I've narrowed it down to 5 things that I think all teachers should have done first in their classroom setup, and just things in general that if you have limited time or if you just don't want to spend that much time setting up your classroom this year, the 5 things that if you get these done, your students can show up and you can teach. The first thing you gotta do is you have to move that furniture. Like we said, when you come in, your furniture is all over the place because they've been cleaning over the summer or repairing things, painting things, so you have to move that furniture. That's typically why it's number 1 on my to-do list, because I want to get that done and out of the way, moving shelves back, things back. The next thing that you have to have in place are student areas, student desk, tables. They have to have a place to sit, so if you only have a couple days before the first day of school, you need a place for those students to go, you need a place for them to sit and learn. The third area that I feel like is a must-have is your area. You need to know that you can find your materials and lesson plans and things you need to teach your students. So set up your area. The fourth area is the classroom library. And I put a little asterisk by this because it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'll tell you what I mean about that in a sec. But you need to have books for your students to read. So you do not have to have this elaborate classroom library setup where they have this place to go and read. You just need some shelves with some books on it that your students can read, so that students have something to do when they finish something early, or you have the books you need in order to teach your reading lessons. So you need some sort of books and some sort of way for your students to access them. I put an asterisk on this because you do not have to have it organized. It does not need to be categorized by genres or authors or labeled. You don't have to have that. Yes, summer is a good time to work on a classroom library and organizing it and thinking about how you want to do it, but it doesn't have to be. So that's why the asterisk is there, because yes, you need one because you need students to be able to access books, but it doesn't have to be all of these social media worthy looking libraries, and it doesn't have to be organized. It's easier, but it doesn't have to be. And the fifth thing is to cover your bulletin boards. They don't have to be completed. They just need to visually look like they're ready. So throw some paper up there. I like to use fabric, put some borders up, and you're good to go. You do not have to have a title. You do not have to have things on the board. We want to allow our classroom to grow with our students. So having those empty boards is okay, because visually it looks okay because there's a background and a border, but it allows for us to put anchor charts up as we're teaching, to put student work up, to put the things we are teaching on the board, and figure out what you want to use that board for later. Make it look good, but it doesn't necessarily have to have things on it. If you can get those 5 things done, then students can show up and it will be okay. And honestly, 2 of those things, the bulletin board and the classroom library, really don't have to be done, because in reality, you could still teach your students if you had nothing on your walls and if you had no books. But those 2 things make things look like you're ready, even though you may not feel like you're ready. So the next 2 tips are things that I like to do when I'm setting up my classroom, because it makes things a little bit more efficient. And I'm not spending time walking around the classroom searching for the thing I need. So the first thing I like to do is to create zones. Because I set up my tables and student areas on the first day I'm there, as I am bringing in stuff that I want to set up my classroom with or decorate with, I put them in a specific area. So one table will be for all classroom decor things. So when I go to put up a bulletin board or hang up a poster, that's where all that is. The next table might just be things that I purchased over the summer that I need to find a new home for. The next spot might be things that as I'm going through stuff, I've decided I no longer want and I need to take it out, maybe take it to Goodwill, take it home, things that I don't want in the classroom. Another table is for when people bring you stuff. For some reason, the beginning of the year, everybody's got to bring you something, whether it's textbooks or things from coworkers, and you're in the middle of putting up a bulletin board and somebody's like, here's your workbooks for the year, or here's your student folders, and you're like, I don't know where to put it. Have a zone for that so that when somebody comes in, you can say, hey, put it on this table, and that way you will be able to find it when you need it. The next zone is actually not just a table or a place to put something. I like to put it on a cart because it just makes moving around the classroom and setting up the classroom easier. I like to create a little tool cart where I put my stapler, my tape, my scissors, tools I might need, cleaning supplies, so that as I am cleaning off a shelf or putting up a bulletin board, I can just move that little cart around with me, and then I have everything I need right at my fingertips, and I'm not spending 30 minutes looking for the stapler that I know I left here. You know it's true. We all do that. So hopefully now, with all of these tips and ideas, setting up your classroom will be quick and efficient. You won't feel overwhelmed, and you will actually feel a sense of relief because you are able to cross a lot of things off your to-do list. Personally, I like to go in off contract hours a week or 2 before teachers are required to be back to do all of this, because I know that if there are a lot of teachers in the building, I'm not going to be as productive. I am a task-oriented person, and I want to make sure I can get those things done without being distracted by others. However, if you only want to work your contract hours and not give any extra time, that is totally okay. Just know that you're going to have to put those priority tasks around meetings and things like that that happen that first week teachers are back. So that brings us to our Meet the Teacher, and I'm including it in this video because Meet the Teacher happens before the first day of school. And this is getting ready for the first day of school, having everything ready before that first day of school. So I include this Meet the Teacher. It may be a back to school night, a curriculum night. It's the event that happens before the first day of school. So if you don't have one of those, you can skip past this. The number one thing to remember before Meet the Teacher is it just needs to appear that your classroom is ready. So I know for us, there are several days before the first day of school, and there might be areas that aren't quite ready. So I'm gonna take those things, shove them in a closet, put up a piece of fabric over it, hide it so that it looks like it's neat and organized and ready to accept students. There are 4 things that I like to do to make sure that my Meet the Teacher event is ready. The first thing is having sign-up. Sometimes Meet the Teacher night is the only night a parent puts their feet into your classroom. They may be busy, they may not be able to make it to other events during the school year. It may be the only time that you physically see that parent. So I want to make sure that I am getting the information I need from them. Contact information, transportation information, emails, allergies, all that kind of thing, having those sign-up sheets, those information sheets so those parents can fill it out that night. The second thing that is really helpful is having directions around your classroom so parents know what to do. Oftentimes you are talking with a parent and others will come in and you may miss them. You want to make sure you still get that information you need from them without having to physically tell each parent what to do. So having signs up, I like to get the plastic picture frames that kind of stand up. You get them at the Dollar Tree and put directions in so that they kind of stand up off the tables and desks so parents can see them, students can see them so they know where to sign, what to fill out, what to do while you're busy talking with another parent. The third thing that I always like to have is a wish list. We know as teachers that we spend a lot of money on our classroom. And so having some wish list items that parents can decide if they want to help out, oftentimes they do. Of course, not everyone can and not everyone will, and that's okay. But giving the option of, hey, here's some extra things we could use in our classroom is always nice to have out. And the fourth thing that I like to set up for Meet the Teacher night is the student desk. I like to have those important informations that I need to have filled out on their desk or table. I like to have a parent packet that they can get more information about our classroom, a little gift. You don't have to go to all that, but having it at each individual desk or table can be really helpful because then you can easily see who did not show up to Meet the Teacher, who you still need to make sure you make contact with them, and who filled out their paperwork and those kinds of things. Being prepared for the first day of school is a lot of work and a lot of steps to get there. And I hope that this gave you some ways to be a little more efficient and a little more effective during your classroom setup and making sure you have a successful Meet the Teacher night. Now, can you imagine what it would be like to also have your first week of lesson plans completely done before you even go back for teacher in-service days? Well, you're in luck because I have the Kickstart Your School Year Blueprint, where I will walk you step by step through planning your first week of school. We will plan that first day of school, which is the craziest day of the year. Plus, I will walk you through how to decide which procedures you need to be teaching when, what kinds of lesson plans, what kinds of activities and books you should incorporate, how to build that classroom environment and community, everything you need to effectively plan that first week of school. There's a link in the description box, or you can just go to the link that's on your screen to get that first week of school plans off your to-do list.